Hey everyone, welcome back. This is my third video featuring some of the creepiest and most terrifying stories I've found. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Now, let's get started. Sleepy head. The trick was to wake slowly. She was always up first. He never once beat her, waiting in her nest of blankets with the words held in her mouth like a candy she'd been told to save. Opened his eyes too fast, and the game was ruined. So he surfaced in pieces, a shoulder, a long breath, a frown as if sleep were something he was reluctant to give back. Good morning, sleepy head, whispered like a shout, every morning of their world. Is it morning already? He'd say, and she'd nod, unofficial of mornings. Then oatmeal from the shrinking sack, water in the blue cup because the blue cup was hers and the rules. Sing quiet so they don't hear me, she said. If someone comes, hide under the stairs. Don't open the door, even for a nice voice. And what if the nice voice says it's me? You knock the special knock. That's my girl. He went out through the back without looking at the upstairs window, because if he looked, he would see her small hand against the glass and he would not go. And if he did not go, they did not eat. The town gave less every week. The runs were long now. The houses behind the school were the furthest away, and he'd left them until last. He worried about where to go after, but he'd deal with that after. He moved along walls, through hedges, quick across the open. From the rise by the water tower, you could sometimes see smoke a long way south, a thin, standing straight, the kind a chimney makes and a loose fire doesn't. He never looked at it long. People meant guns or wanting what you had, and he had exactly one thing that could be taken from him. He put the smoke at his back and went on. In the first kitchen, he found peaches in syrup and peanut butter, and stood a moment feeling something close to rich. It happened in the garage. He was dragging a case of water from under a fallen shelf when the shadows under the workbench moved, a hand closed on his sleeve, and the pain came. Sudden, specific, a mouth's worth of pressure grinding through canvas into his forearm. The sound he made didn't seem to belong to him. He swung the flashlight into the dark shape of its head and kept swinging until the pressure let go. Then he ran and didn't stop until the school was behind him. In an alley, he pushed the sleeve up with cold fingers. Two curved rows of broken skin, welling dark, neat as stitching. Nothing else in the world made a mark like that, and he did not pretend otherwise. He stood in the bad light, doing arithmetic. A day, people used to say, back when there were people. A day, sometimes two. If the only life in question were his own, he'd have walked into the hills and picked a spot with a view. But she would wait. She would sit at that window with her hand on the glass, because waiting was what he'd taught her, and not one soul left alive knew she was there. The rules that kept her safe would keep her, locked in, quiet, good, until the food ran out. Dying out here was the easy thing. It would just kill her slower. The smoke, then. Morning after morning, he had put it at his back because you didn't gamble what you couldn't stand to lose. A man with a day left had nothing left to gamble. He could be miles south by noon, find them, stand off where he couldn't hurt anybody, tell them about the house and the knock and the girl who would answer it if they got it right. One night, move everything where she could reach it, say what could be said, gone before first light, and a day to make somebody know she was there. He pulled the sleeve down and picked up the pack. He was sweating when he reached the house, and cold under the sweat, and the thin rain that had started halfway home had nothing to do with it. Too fast. It was supposed to be a day. He gave the special knock, and her feet on the stairs were the best sound left in the world. His forearm had a heartbeat in it now. While she ate, he worked, making the work look like tidying. Cans up from the cellar to the shelf she could reach. The bathtub and every jar filled with water, the can opener tied to the low shelf with a string. He watched her eat the peaches like a man never wanting to forget. She told him about a spider that had come down the wall on a string and gone back up again. apparently to think things over. He laughed, and the laugh turned into coughing, and she watched him with her spoon halfway to her mouth. Your face is shiny, she said. Your face is shiny. Daddy, I got rained on, baby, that's all. He set the last can down and made the next part sound like nothing. Tomorrow's run is the longest one yet. I'll be leaving before you're up. She stopped chewing. Before good morning? Just this once, and this one might take a couple of sleeps. If you get hungry, everything's on the low shelf. You don't have to wait for me, but when I get back, we'll do the pause. The farm one? The farm one. He got her into her blankets and asked for the rules again, though she said them every morning. The door, the stairs, the quiet singing. She said them twice, her eyes already closing, and when she asked why, just because, baby, so I know you know them. He sat down on the mattress by the door, back against the wall, Pack beside him, because a man sitting up doesn't sleep. When the sky went grey, he would go out the back and walk south toward the smoke, and he would not look at the upstairs window, and it would be for the same reason as always, only forever. The shivering came up through him in long, slow waves, like something turning over in deep water. Too fast, hours ahead of the stories, and he pulled his knees up and held on and bargained. First light, that was all he needed. One more grey morning, and he would be gone before she ever. Uh, he just had to keep his eyes. The room got light the way it does, even at the end of the world. Something sat slumped where the wall met the mattress, cooling, and then it wasn't anything at all. And then it was something again. It came back up through the body like water rising in a well. It had no name for the small, warm shape, sitting cross legged an arm's length away, hands folded, waiting the way she had been taught to wait. It smelled her before it heard her. A shoulder moved, a frown crossed the grey face as if sleep were something reluctant to be given back. Good morning, sleepyhead. I don't remember my son. Hey, I don't really know how to go about this, but I have to say something to someone. Everyone else thinks I'm crazy. So, some backstory. I'm Mike, a 43 single male. My parents are both gone. I have one brother, but haven't seen him or talked to in about 12 years. I was once married to the love of my life, Monica. One night, when she was coming home from her late night nurse shifts, a semi truck smashed into her. She was dead on sight. For the last 15 years, I've felt alone, empty. I've struggled to get through life without her. After her death, I became quite forgetful. I would forget groceries in the shopping cart, forget to wash the dishes, forget why I was going into certain rooms. But this is impossible. So last week I woke up and there was a man in my kitchen cooking eggs. The man was much larger than me. He had to be about 6 feet 6 and extremely muscular. I screamed as loud as I could. What is it, Dad? As he ran to me. Dad, what? I'm not. Dad, it's okay. It's me, Eric. You're having an episode again. Look. He shows me a picture of us. I don't know what it was, but something just didn't look right. But then we went around the house and there was pictures of us everywhere. Pictures of just him, pictures of him and Monica, birthday cards, school awards, everything, even a birth certificate. October 25th, 2006, but it's not possible. I would not forget something like this. I've only forgot small things. Well, at least only remember forgetting small things. Even if this man was my son, there is something off about him, about his eyes. He blinks too slow. He has her smile. Later that day, I called my best friend, Tom. Hey, Tom, weird question. Do you know Eric, your son? Um, no, the mailman. I didn't want to seem crazy. He hasn't been around lately. He must have got a different route. Mitch has been the mailman in our neighborhood for over 30 years. Oh, well, I got to go. Maybe I am crazy. Similar conversations took place with neighbors, coworkers, and close friends. People I see every day that would know if I had a son, so I just accepted it. He filled me in on information I didn't remember. Baseball games, father-son events, birthday parties, vacations, all things I didn't remember. Then he asked me, what was mom like? I was only 5 when she passed. Well, she was the most caring, beautiful, gentle person I've ever met. We would go out to the beach and spend hours reading and talking. I can never forget the day I met her. It was ninth grade. The new girl moved here from Boston. I sat by her at lunch. Neither of us has the best upbringing. Victims of abuse, grew up poor, but we both wanted to make the best out of life. And we did together. I may not remember everything, but I can't forget her. And I know she loved you. Can I see some pictures of her? Yeah, I got some locked away. I went to get a photo book I have of her. It has a lock on it. Me and Eric looked at pictures of her for hours. I had them labeled by year. We were reliving memories and telling him stories about his mother. He wasn't in any of the pictures, which was a red flag, I admit, but I didn't think too much of it because I don't even know how long I've had these locked up for. But I noticed something. We got to 2006. Monica was never pregnant. Even on the day he would have been born, there are pictures of her, of us eating out that day. She's slim, nothing even close to a baby bump. I put the pictures up and hurried and went to bed. The next day, Eric told me he was going to work. I called my brother. He was at our wedding. He was at the funeral. I lived with him for 2 years after Monica died, which means Eric would have too. We fell out after our mother's death. Hey, Andy, it's Mike. Mike, I never thought I'd hear from you again. I'm sorry I got a new phone, didn't have your number saved. How are you? Is everything okay? Andy, I have a question. Do you know my son? You had a baby and didn't tell me. How old is he? I got to meet him. 20. What? Eric walked in. Hey, I got to go. I will talk to you later, man. Eric asks, who was that? Oh, just your uncle. Oh, okay. I just came home to grab lunch. I will be back later. Love you, Dad. Oh, love you too, Eric. After he left, I tried to call Andy back. It said the number wasn't in service. There were now no signs that Andy had ever existed. His Facebook, Instagram, all gone. Pictures I had just seen with him in them yesterday, gone. I told my neighbors and friends. They said I'm crazy. I left. I drove 14 hours to Andy's old address all the way in Missouri. There was just an empty field. I'm writing this in my hotel room here. Eric is knocking on the door. Hey dad, let me in. It's Eric. You're having an episode. He never sounded angry. He actually sounded worried, like he wanted to help me. It continued for 3 straight days. Every few seconds, another knock. The same words over and over until about an hour ago. All knocking stopped. However, it just started again. It wasn't Eric anymore. Come on, Mike, we're going to miss Andy's wedding. Hurry up. It was the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard. It was Monica's, and it was perfect. I don't know if I'm losing my mind anymore. I don't know if anything outside this hotel room is real. But if there's even the smallest chance that's really her, I have to open the door. I work at a crematorium. One body won't burn. I don't know how I ended up with this job. It kind of just fell into my lap one day. Funeral home was hiring. I needed money. Suddenly, I'm in a cold concrete room with massive metal furnaces on each wall. Somehow, I think I was just pre programmed to be desensitized to the kind of work I was doing. It's weird. When I first started, it was like part of me hoped to at least feel something. Death never bothered me. Not when my pets died, not when my great aunt died, not even when my mom died. I was sad, sure, but it was never something I dwelled on. Life has to go on. You can't just succumb to grief. I'd learned to cherish the memories, but death itself became more of an inconvenience. I'd be more annoyed than anything that I didn't get any more time with whoever it was that died. Part of me was happy for the protection, but another part of me hated feeling numb. That's why I wanted so desperately to at least have some kind of empathy for whatever corpse came through the doors of this funeral home. I just couldn't do it though. It was hard to see bodies as people because that's all they were, bodies. And the more of them I saw, the more distant I became from the belief that life has meaning. We all live to die, whether natural or tragic, timely or untimely. We all end up here, either put in the ground or burned in one of my furnaces. You'd be surprised how many people choose to return to ash. I never understood it. For some reason, I've always thought I'd somehow feel the flames, feel my flesh charring, feel the steam escape through my pores. Some people don't see it that way, though. Some won't want to be constricted to a coffin, submerged in darkness to be eaten by worms and insects. I guess both types of people are delusional in their own way. Bodies are just bodies, food for the earth or ash for the wind, and I've seen a lot of them, enough to become this nihilistic at least. But of all the bodies I have seen, they all had one thing in common. Humans have a way of being unique, but when it comes down to basic biology, we are all remarkably similar. We all burn. I've spent a lifetime becoming numb to what is grounded in reality. I didn't even think to prepare for what's not, because no matter how hot it gets, no matter how long I leave those torches running, this body will not burn. He was a John Doe. Nobody could identify him. Apparently, he'd been found in a ditch, covered in leaves and twigs, and face down in rainwater, 15 miles out of town. Two transport workers for the coroner's office brought him in, insisting he be cremated because the city didn't want to pay for a burial. They'd rather just turn him to ashes and be done with it. As they were leaving, I couldn't help but notice just how pale they were. They looked shaken and they were leaving in a hurry. I stopped one of them to ask what the deal was, but the only answer he could give me was, "There's something wrong with that one. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, something is not right with that man." He stared past me and at the body for a long while. His brow was furrowed. He looked worried as sweat dripped down his forehead. Without another word, the man shot one last look at me before turning on his heel and speed walking towards the exit. It was getting late, and I was just ready to get the day over with so I could go home. I pushed the man's remarks out of my mind and began the process. The first time I loaded him into the retort, I thought I had made a mistake. The body was beginning to char, but it seemed like the furnace wasn't getting hot enough to do anything beyond that. I checked the temperature and saw that it was actually hotter than normal. I tried telling myself that it must have been a malfunction, but it didn't make sense to me. Flames were completely encapsulating the corpse. His hair was gone, parts of his scalp were beginning to boil and pop like blisters, but that's all it did, just charred. I cranked the temperature up to its highest setting and watched as flames erupted from beneath him and from all four walls of the furnace. I could feel the heat radiating from the outside. I checked the body every hour. What should have been a 3 hour process ended up being an all night ordeal. Even still, by the end of it, he still wasn't ashes. It was like his skin had just deflated and melted away into a soupy substance that dripped and stained the floor of the furnace. I was too tired to care. I just wanted to go home. I left what was left of him in the furnace and went home, praying that my boss wouldn't find the mess. When I woke up to a phone call from him a few hours later, my heart sank, and I prepared myself to be screamed at for not cleaning before I left. Now I wish that's actually what he did. Instead, he simply asked why I left without burning the John Doe from yesterday. I explained to him that I did and had in fact spent much more time doing it than any other employee would have. But he told me that he was looking at him right now. He followed it up with a picture. The John Doe from yesterday, not a burn on his body, a full head of hair, looking like he had been decomposing at room temperature for 8 hours straight last night. I didn't know what to say. I simply hung up the phone and went back to bed. I don't get paid enough for this. My ex girlfriend called, asking for help. She wanted a ride home, but whatever I let in my car was not human anymore. Something strange happened that night when I was driving home. It was the same drive I took every night. I was working late and finally ready to leave. I waved goodbye to my coworker Jeff and said goodnight. My commute was only about half an hour. Not too bad, all things considered. Never much traffic either, just a couple of traffic lights and then straight down a country road. While I was driving out of the parking lot, I got a call. It was from my ex-girlfriend Jessica. It was strange because she hadn't contacted me in almost a year. I was glad I got the call before I made it too far down the road where I lost service. Living out in the country sucks for reception, and until I get home, I have no service. I pulled over and answered the call. Before I could even say hello, she cut me off, sounding genuinely scared. Please, you need to help. I can't reach anyone else. I need you to pick me up at the Cypress Street bus station as soon as you can get here. I tried to respond, but the line went dead. I called her back, asking what was going on, but she didn't pick up. I was surprised she would be calling me if she needed help and confused why, if it was urgent or she was in danger, that she wouldn't call 911. I couldn't risk ignoring it, though. If she really needed help, I had to do something. I turned around and took a detour down to Cypress Street to try and find her. I got there in good time and started searching for any bus stops until I found one. Sure enough, there she was. Jessica was sitting alone at the bus stop. She was wearing a large coat, but seemingly shivering out in the night. She was still seated and didn't appear to be in immediate danger. I pulled up to the curb by the bus stop and called out, Jess? At first, she didn't answer, and I was embarrassed I might have made a mistake. But then suddenly she turned towards me and had a strange, confused look like she was just remembering something. She stood up and slowly walked over to my car. I was relieved it was her, and I called out again. What's wrong, Jess? Did you just need a lift? I don't know if the red line comes through this late on a Thursday. Are you alright? You sounded really nervous earlier and wouldn't pick up when I called you back. She still looked confused, and I was worried something was wrong, but she suddenly smiled, as if remembering something that made her happy, and she regarded me. Oh, thank you. I'm not sure how I got here. Please take me home. Without another word, she shuffled over to the passenger side and let herself in. The way she moved seemed irregular, not quite like she was drunk, but just an odd pained movement, like she might be hurt, yet her expression showed no signs of discomfort at all. The effect was a little jarring, and after she got in my car, I suddenly felt a bit unnerved. I brushed it off, though, after all, we had dated for 3 years and we knew each other pretty well. I figured maybe she was just having a bad night, or perhaps even a bit drunk, though I didn't smell anything on her. I tried to act casual and smiled. She returned the gesture in a strange half smile, half grimace. So, where to? I asked again. She just sat there, still smiling faintly and looking at me, or rather staring. She continued for nearly 30 seconds, and it felt like she was staring a hole into me. I cleared my throat and asked again, Jessica, where did you need to go? What did you call me for? Oh, called you. I called you. She paused, looking confused, then continued, Home, take me home with you. I need help. She looked like she was ready to cry, and my sympathy in the moment prevented me from considering how oddly she was acting and the strange way she was speaking. I decided I would start heading home and along the way try to see what was really going on. We drove on for a while and she didn't offer any details. She didn't talk about anything unless I asked her directly. She just alternated between staring outside or worse, when she thought I wasn't looking at her, she would stare at me. The way she looked at me made me uncomfortable. We had spent so much time together, but whatever was wrong with her now made her look at me as if I were an alien she was studying. What actually happened tonight, Jess? What's wrong? This is kind of strange, you calling me after all this time. I asked her honestly. She looked at me again, her head tilted like a bird examining prey. Then she replied, I was I was attacked, caught, someone caught me, hurt me. I will get help tomorrow, but tonight I just needed a face, a familiar face. I nodded my head and focused on the road. I missed my turn. I had a bad feeling about taking her home in this state. Something was off. As we drove on, she seemed to settle in, and her head lolled back, almost like she was nodding off to sleep. I considered that she might have suffered a head injury or something, which would help explain the odd behavior. I thought it might be good to take her to a hospital just to have her checked out. She started making odd noises while I thought she was asleep, strange hissing sounds which had to be intentional. I never heard someone snore like that before. I decided to turn around and start heading back into town. Either I could take her to the hospital or back to her own home. She stayed in the strange sleeping trance for a while. A few times I was worried because I couldn't hear her breathing anymore, but she suddenly exhaled and made more of those strange sounds. When I got back into town and my reception returned, I received a text, or rather a handful of them. I glanced at my phone quickly without wanting to take my eyes off the road for too long. I was confused when I saw they were from Jessica. I thought for a moment she might be pulling some prank where she pretends to be asleep and then messages me. I was curious how she could do that while looking like she was unconscious. I slowed down a little bit and confirmed the empty road and then pulled up the messages just to see. What I read made my blood freeze. The first one came shortly after I picked Jessica up. "Where are you? Please. I need help. I can't say much and you will think I'm crazy, but I can't go to the police. I just need to get out of here before it comes back. Something is after me. It looked like a cop earlier. I saw it again and I had to hide. It tried to kill me. After it attacked me, it changed. You have to believe me. It looks like me." The message ended and I read the next one. "I'm sorry, I don't know where it went. I don't see you here. Please hurry." I read the final message sent just a few minutes ago. "I need to leave. I hope you are okay. I'm sorry, I never should have asked you to come and get me tonight. I was just so scared. It's better if you stay away. It's not safe. Forget I called you. Don't come here, and if you see me waiting, turn away. I know it sounds insane, but it's not really me." I glanced over to the woman sleeping next to me. Her head was slumped forward, but her eyes were fluttering under her lids like REM sleep. I had no idea what was really happening, but if I wanted to believe Jess, then I had to accept that the person sitting next to me was not only not really her, but was a violent monster. Whatever was happening, I had to get her out of my car. I had an idea. I stopped at a gas station and she woke up as I was parking. She turned over, cracked her neck in an awkward stretch that sounded horrifically painful but seemed not to cause her discomfort, and asked, "Are we home? I'm so hungry." I held my nerve and lied. "Yes, we are. I can get you something inside. Come on, let's go in and I can get you a bite to eat." She scrutinized me, and for a second I thought she could see through the ruse, but her head cocked and she gave an unsettling smile. She slowly opened the car door and stepped out. She waited for me to get out, but I lunged across the seat and pulled the door closed and locked it. The fake smile faded, and my fear that this was just some trick had fully dissolved. What I saw next was something I can never unsee. As she raged outside, her face twisted into a nightmarish jumble of different human features, and an unholy noise emerged that sounded like 100 people screaming at once. She pulled so hard on the door that the handle broke off and part of it buckled. I was not sure that she wouldn't be able to rip the entire door off if she tried hard enough. I put the car in reverse and slammed on the gas, peeling out of there. I managed to turn around and drive away. I looked in my rearview mirror and, to my horror, the thing that had once looked like Jessica was right behind me, sprinting at nearly the speed of the car. The thing chased me for several blocks, moving so fast I was afraid she might actually catch up. I finally lost her, and I struggled to calm myself so I wouldn't crash. I was terrified, but I had so many questions. I called Jessica again, but she didn't answer. I was afraid something had happened to her. I even drove back to the bus stop, but as she had said in her message, she was gone. I didn't know what to do, so I finally drove home after going in a few circles around town and checking behind me at several intervals to make sure I wasn't followed. I kept trying to reach out to Jessica, but after several days, her voicemail was full, and after a week, I found out she had gone missing. I had a horrible feeling that whatever that thing was had caught up to her. I was devastated that she was gone, but also terrified that whatever it was knew who I was now too. I ended up moving away. I couldn't bear the idea of living near where such a thing existed. I couldn't find any information on what it was or how Jessica had found it, but all I knew was it was real, and it was still out there. After enough time had passed, I felt a bit safer. I thought that since I had put enough distance between us, things would be alright. That all changed after the call I received last night. I got a message from a familiar number. It was my old coworker, Jeff. I asked him why he was calling, and he started laughing. What do you mean? You said you would come over for the party I saw you last night. You seemed a little drunk, but I figured you would remember agreeing to come over and say hi to everyone again. It's been so long. I just wanted to remind you to BYOB. See you there. He said goodbye, and I held the phone next to my ear in shock. The call had ended, and I was speechless. I sit here now, terrified of what is happening back home. There is only one way they could have seen me there. That thing was back. It's there. It's hunting. I have to call and tell everyone. They have to believe me. They have to know that if they see me, it's not really me and it's not safe. The second night in my new house. It happened in September 2019. I still think about it sometimes, even after 7 years. The week before, we just moved into a new house, and a car had run over my foot, leaving it pretty badly hurt. I was on crutches, and even getting around my own house was slow and painful. Sleeping wasn't easy either. The smallest movement of my foot would jolt me awake with pain. It was either the second or third night in the new house. I honestly can't remember which. What I do remember clearly is that for the first time in 11 years, I had a bedroom all to myself after sharing one with my sister and parents my entire life. I was excited about finally having my own space, but the house still felt unfamiliar. Everything was new, the sounds were different. It had that particular feeling a house has before it's had time to settle into being home. That night I went to bed early, completely exhausted from the move and the pain. I fell asleep almost instantly. Around midnight I woke up because of the pain in my foot. At first I was still half asleep, groggy, but within a few seconds I was fully alert. I remember lying there in the silence, just waiting for the pain to ease off. My bed was positioned so that, looking straight ahead, I could see the open doorway leading into the hallway. There were no lights on out there, complete darkness. As I looked toward the doorway, I noticed something standing in it. The first thing I saw were two white eyes, tilted slightly to the right, as if it were peeking around the doorframe, staring right at me. Then it hit me how tall it was. It seemed to reach almost to the top of the doorway. I couldn't make out anything else. Aside from those white eyes, everything else just blended into the dark. I remember being scared, genuinely scared. Because of my foot, I couldn't move quickly, but I want to be clear. I wasn't frozen. This wasn't sleep paralysis. I could move, just not fast. I knew jumping out of bed wasn't really an option, so I made the decision to just stay still and watch it. I have no idea how long we stared at each other. It might have only been a few seconds, but it felt like a lot longer. Neither of us moved. At some point, I turned my head away, just for a moment. When I looked back at the doorway, it was gone. No footsteps, no sound of a door opening or closing, nothing. I never saw it again after that. It's been 7 years now, and nothing like that has ever happened to me since. I still don't know what I saw that night. Maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks on me right after waking up in the dark. Maybe my brain was misreading shadows in a room I wasn't used to yet. Or maybe it's just one of those things I'll never really be able to explain. Thank you all for watching. I'm Mansipom, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.